Welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas' council meeting for Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. And we're going to start the meeting with our SD&G video.
When challenges come,
we stand together.
we adapt.
We protect what is ours.
We fight for our future.
We support each other.
And we rise. Cornwall builds. We make world-class products right here in your backyard.
Our farms sustain our communities. The local food grown here feeds us all.
South Dundas powers up. From hardware stores to local shops, our businesses keep our community running.
From farm to table, we produce fresh and delicious food for our community and beyond.
In North Stormont, let's strengthen our tourism. When you explore local, you invest in your own backyard.
With every grain we grow, we feed families and keep our local economy moving forward.
North Glengarry creates. From art to culture, we showcase the best in local talent, Canadian made and from the heart of our community.
Akwesasne Indoors. Our traditions guide us and our local businesses keep us strong.
We raise a glass to Canadian made. Because the best beer, it's brewed right here at home.
For our farmers.
For our artists.
For our local businesses.
For our builders.
For our families.
For our communities.
For our economy.
For Canada.
For our future, shop local. Support what matters.
Thank you, and we'll discuss more in our later in the agenda. We can discuss more about the video under board discussions. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let it resolve that the April 9th council meeting of South Dundas now be opened at 6:02 p.m. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Okay, number 3, confirmation of agenda. Any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda? I will make an addition under Delegations Canada Day Committee, under B. Deputy Mayor?
Mayor Broad, can I pull under the consent agenda 10F, not necessarily to talk about the report itself, but on the same lines of the CN rail?
Got it?
Okay,
So 10F to discussions. Any others? Thank you very much. I have a motion, let it resolve that the council municipality approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes. Any errors, omissions of the meeting minutes? Seeing none, I have a resolution that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted. March 19th regular council meeting and March 19th committee of the whole meeting. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move to delegations. So first up, we have John Michael Steffen from Watson Associates to discuss development charges and background study. Welcome to South Dundas.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So, yeah, I've been asked to come here today to build off of the discussion we had back in the fall around the study process for the municipality to proceed through moving towards your first development charge, background study, and bylaw. And so we've undertaken a fair amount of work with staff over the past number of months to get to this point of being able to present to you the draft findings for the development charge, background study, and bylaw. And so what we wanted to do this evening is give you an overview of the study inputs. So we'll talk about some of those, what the draft calculations are, looking at some discussion around connection charge options as well with respect to how you recover costs for water and wastewater services. Look at how these charges compare to neighboring municipalities and talk about some of the draft bylaw policies as well. So as a bit of a review from our earlier discussion, just to give you a high-level overview of the methodology that we have to follow when calculating a development charge to be imposed in the municipality. As these are charges imposed under the Development Charges Act, and looking at the cost of capital infrastructure related to new development, the first thing we need to understand is what is the anticipated development within a municipality. And then for that anticipated growth, both residential and non-residential, we need to look at what are the eligible services that we want to include within the bylaw, and the Development Charges Act defines which services can be included. There's a couple other tests that have to be met as well to ensure that the level of service you're recovering from new development isn't greater than the level of service you've imposed historically as well. So ensuring that you're not increasing service levels and having new development pay for that, but you're only asking new development to pay for the same average service levels that you've imposed as a municipality historically over the past 15 years. So then when looking at that increase in need for services for new development and understanding what the specific capital projects are to meet that increase in need for service, there's some deductions that have to be made with respect to whether these projects will benefit the existing community, or whether there's any grants or subsidies that are anticipated as well. And then when we arrive at the net development charge recoverable costs, those are apportioned over that same anticipated development to calculate a charge which is typically imposed per residential dwelling unit and per square foot or square meter of non-residential development. So to touch on some of the key inputs, firstly with the growth forecast. So it's been developed to be consistent with the United Counties growth management study and the projections for the municipality. And so what that would see is that over the next 10 years, the municipality growing from a population of about 11,500 persons to about 12,000 over that period, growth of about 4%, which would be accommodated in about 250 additional residential dwelling units. On the non-residential side, a slightly higher growth from an annual year-over-year increase from a percentage standpoint, but 204 additional jobs created in the land-based industrial, commercial, institutional sectors, which are anticipated to generate about an additional 211,000 square feet of non-residential gross floor area development. So the services then that we've looked at for inclusion in the bylaw are for fire protection, services related to a highway, which includes your roads and related infrastructure, as well as public works, facilities, and fleet, parks and recreation, and then growth-related studies that are required in relation to the eligible services or for future development charge background studies themselves. And these have been assessed over the 10-year period. You'll note water and wastewater is not included on this list, as we'll talk about the potential options that staff are looking at around continuing to use the authority under the Municipal Act to recover those costs as you currently do. In aggregate across those four services, about $6.2 million in gross capital costs have been identified. Of those costs, a little over half have been deducted as a benefit to existing development, so it would not be included in the calculation of the charge as illustrated in the gold section of the pie chart. And there's some other minor miscellaneous deductions that have been made with respect to other contributions, about $31,000. And you'll see there a post-period benefit deduction of 1% of the cost, which refers to costs that are attributable to new development, but would be of a benefit to growth beyond the 10-year period, so that would not be included in the calculation of the charge at this time. And so that leaves about 45% of the cost, about $2.8 million over the next 10 years, to be included in the calculation of the charge. Of that $2.8 million, almost 60% of that relates to Parks and Recreation services, accounting for needs that have been identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and most notably including a provision for future recreation indoor facility space. Fire protection represents the next largest share, about 30% of the cost, just over $800,000. That primarily relates to, again, provisions for additional facility expansions, as well as a new aerial vehicle that would be required to meet the service needs of the new development in the built form that's anticipated. Service related to a highway represents about 8% of those costs at $240,000. And those needs are primarily related to additional sidewalk and road plows as new subdivision development comes online. And then we have about $75,000 in growth-related costs for future studies. So then to look at how the charge has been calculated to recover that $2.8 million over the next 10 years from the anticipated development, charge is proposed to be imposed on a per residential dwelling unit basis. That would be differentiated for single and semi-detached dwellings, apartments of 2-bedroom or greater, or 1-bedroom and bachelor, and then other multiples, which would be largely your medium density townhomes, but units that don't fall within the single and semi-detached or apartment definitions. And that categorization of dwelling unit type is consistent with the vast majority of municipalities in Ontario that impose development charges. And for non-residential development, it would be imposed on a per square foot of non-residential gross floor area basis. So then this would be the draft calculated schedule of charges. As you can see, the charge shown by dwelling unit type and per square foot of non-residential gross floor area, and by service area and in aggregate as well. And so for low density dwelling units, which would represent the majority of the residential development that you'd be anticipated to see, the charge would be $10,623 per dwelling unit, with the majority of that being related to parks and recreation services. As we saw in the earlier pie chart, it was parks and recreation that represented the majority of those growth-related needs. The charge is then decreases by dwelling unit type down to as low as $5,293 for a 1-bedroom and bachelor apartment unit. And that differentiation of the charge by dwelling unit type is based on the assumed occupancy of each dwelling unit from census data. So the single and semi-detached dwelling units have a higher assumed occupancy. They have a higher charge than the medium and high density units to represent the demand for service on a per capita basis. And the charge for non-residential development would be $1.92 per square foot. So then just to touch briefly on the connection charges. So currently, the municipality imposes $5,000 for new connections to the water and wastewater system, $5,000 for both water, or for each of water and wastewater, so $10,000 total for new connections. To reflect the cost of the treatment capacity that is available, both on the water and wastewater side to service new connections, there was an opportunity to and really need from a cost perspective to update that charge, and that's something that's being reviewed currently with staff, and that will be coming forward at a later date. So then looking at how those calculated charges compare to the existing rates, this shows the current rates, including the connection charges for water and wastewater, and how that would compare to the calculated rates. And so currently for a new low density home, they'd pay $10,000 for that connection. With the calculated charges of $10,600, we'd see that total charge increase, a little over doubling that charge to $20,623. On the non-residential side, the charge for water and wastewater, again, is $5,000 per connection. We've converted that to a per square foot basis, just on an assumed 5,000 square foot facility, to show that as $1 per square foot, just for comparison purposes. And so we'd see that total charge for that sample facility increase from $2 per square foot to $3.92 per square foot, little under 100% increase there as well. So then next, just to show how that the current proposed charges compare to municipalities in this area of the province, we can see that currently with your water and wastewater connection charges of $10,000 for a low density unit, those would be at the bottom end of the comparison, as shown by the gray arrow. And what I probably should have noted already is that in this bar chart, the red section of the bars are the water and wastewater charges that municipalities impose, either through the Municipal Act or through the Development Charges Act. The dark blue section is the development charges for other services, and the yellow section are upper tier charges, and the green section, which you only see there for Ottawa, are education development charges, to give a full spectrum of the development charges that are imposed both at the upper, lower, and education level for developments in the various municipalities. And so with the addition of the development charges, the proposed development charge of around $10,600, we'd see that charge increase from that bottom end of the comparison, more to sort of the mid-lower range of the comparison, just above that of Cornwall, lower than that of Castleman, and much lower than that of North Dundas, which is at the top end below Ottawa. So in a fairly competitive position in comparison to the other municipalities. Looking at that for commercial development on a per square foot basis, again here assuming a 5,000 square foot facility for the comparison purposes, we'd see the current charge was again at that low end of the comparison, moving up slightly between that of Cornwall and South Stormont, but again lower than that of North Dundas, still very competitively priced in comparison to the other municipalities. And then lastly, for industrial development in this comparison, looking at a larger sample facility of 30,000 square feet. Again, the current charge being at the bottom end of that comparison, moving up slightly between that of South Stormont and North Dundas, but being still again at that bottom end of the comparison, much lower than a number of the other municipalities. So then, having had an opportunity to look at the key inputs in the study and the calculation of the charge and how that compares to others, Jen just wanted to run through the policies that will govern the implementation of the bylaw if and when approved by council. Some of the majority of these are dictated through the Development Charges Act that municipalities must follow, but there are some, especially in terms of the potential exemptions, that council does have discretion over in terms of what they want to include in the bylaw. So firstly, the charges under the Act can either be calculated and collected at building permit issuance, or can be accelerated to subdivision registration for hard services like roads, water, and wastewater. And as well, municipalities always have the ability to enter into agreements with applicants on a case-by-case basis to allow for the charges to be paid either earlier or later than what's required in the bylaw. What's being proposed, which is appropriate for a municipality of your nature, is to have those charges calculated and collected at building permit issuance, which is the sort of the default mechanism that most municipalities utilize. There are a couple provisions in the Act that deviate from that building permit timing. One being that for any developments that proceed through site plan or zoning bylaw amendment applications under the Planning Act, their charges will not be calculated at building permit issuance, but will be calculated on the day the application is made. And then they are held frozen at that rate until building permit issuance, provided the building permit is issued within 18 months of the approval of the application. And so the implication of this is that any developments that have gone through the site plan or zoning bylaw amendment applications prior to and submit that application, and it's prior to a development charge being passed by the municipality, as long as they get their building permit within that 18 months, the development charges will not apply to that development because they'll be calculated on the day the application is made, which would be 0 if it's prior to your bylaw coming into effect. So there will be potentially some developments that fall into that area of not having development charges applied, depending on, again, when they've gone through planning approvals for site plan or zoning bylaw amendments, and ultimately when they get their building permits. The Act also requires for rental housing and institutional development for the charges not to be paid at building permit issuance, but for them to be paid over 6 annual installments. So that's a requirement, and for any deviation from that, that could be allowed, but it have to be entered into through an agreement with the applicant and council. For those installment payments and the charges calculated at planning application submission, municipality does have the ability to add interest at the maximum rate dictated in the Act, which is the average prime rate plus 1%. So in terms of exemptions to the payment of development charges, the Act provides for a number of statutory exemptions that you must witness, but council can also, through the bylaw, define other types of development they want to exempt, and that does need to be defined in the bylaw. Council does not have the ability on a case-by-case basis to waive development charges after the fact. And so the typical types of areas that municipalities look at for exemptions are the use. So for example, places of worship and farm buildings are fairly common exemptions that are provided for specific geographic areas or types of development, or potentially for certain services within the bylaw as well. What's really important to note, though, is that in the Development Charges Act, it's clear that you cannot lower the charge for one type of development and make up for that loss in revenue by increasing the charge for another type of development. And so anytime you do have exemptions, whether statutorily required or through council's direction in the development charge bylaw, that loss in revenue needs to be made up and contributed from the tax base and non-development charge sources. It can't be recovered through future forms of development. So to run through then what the statutory exemptions are that are required in the Act, you don't impose charges on yourself, the county, or school boards. Any land that's developed for use by a university that receives operating funds from the government is exempt. Any existing industrial buildings can expand their floor area by up to 50% of the existing floor area without charges payable on that expansion. Anything beyond the 50% expansion would have development charges applied to it. There are exemptions for additional residential units, whether those are in existing homes or new homes, and what is allowed is for up to 2 apartment units or additional residential units within a single semi-detached or row house. Both of those can be within or attached to the existing or new structure, or one can be within and one can be in an ancillary structure. There are also exemptions for nonprofit housing, which was added in late 2022 through Bill 23. Inclusionary zoning affordable housing units are exempt. There are additional exemptions that came into effect in June of last year for affordable housing. We'll touch on what those thresholds are as well. There's exemptions for attainable units, which are in the Development Charges Act, but they're not yet in effect because the province hasn't yet provided a definition of attainable. And then there are discounts for rental housing. So in addition to the statutory installment payments that are required for rental housing development, there's also discounts that are required depending on the number of bedrooms in the dwelling unit. So 25% deduction for 3-bedroom and greater units, 20% for 2-bedroom, and 15% for 1-bedroom and less. And then the prior mandatory phase-in of new development charges was removed in June of last year. So when a bylaw is imposed, it can be the charges can be collected at that rate immediately. So then in terms of the affordable housing exemption, just wanted to bring to your attention what those thresholds are for the municipality. And so the province has released a bulletin that came into effect on June 1st of last year that set the affordable housing thresholds for ownership and rental units for different dwelling unit types across all municipalities. And so for ownership units, the unit is deemed affordable if it is below the lower of 90% of the average purchase price or the income-based affordable purchase price that the province sets out. And so for ownership units, you can see here the 90% of the average purchase price in the municipality indicated by the dark blue bar, and the income-based affordable purchase price shown by the green bar. And so with the in each case, with the exception of single detached homes, at 90% of the average purchase price sets that affordable threshold. For single detached homes, it's actually the income-based threshold that is the lower, that sets the threshold. So for a unit to be affordable, it would have to be sold for less than $337,000 for a single detached home. For a semi-detached, $306,000. Similarly for a row house, and for a condominium apartment, $315,000. So if a unit is sold below those amounts, then it's deemed affordable to be exempt, and they would have to enter into an agreement with the municipality to maintain that affordable threshold for 25 years. On the rental side, those same agreements apply in terms of agreeing to provide it at affordable thresholds for 25 years. Here we can see the affordable thresholds are determined based on the lower of the average market rent or the income-based affordable rent. And here we can see for each dwelling unit type, the average market rent is what sets the affordable threshold as it is lower than the income-based affordable rent. And so any units that are rented below that amount would be exempt from the payment of development charges. And we see those amounts ranging between $833 for a bachelor unit to $1,102 per month for a 3-bedroom and greater unit. So the preliminary non-statutory exemptions that have been proposed for council's consideration based on review of staff and the policies that are imposed in the surrounding area are that you would not impose development charges for farm buildings, places of worship, cemeteries, or burial grounds that are exempt under the Assessment Act, exempt from taxation. Group B, Division 2, care and treatment occupancies as defined in the Building Code Act are proposed to be exempt as well. And so beyond those three, it's proposed that all other developments would have development charges applied to them in addition to the statutory exemptions that we've talked about already. Redevelopment credits are one other item that's not statutorily required, but generally a best practice across municipalities. And the intent of redevelopment credits are that where you have an existing building or structure that's going to be converted to a different use or demolished and replaced, the replacement of the existing building doesn't represent an increase in need for service, and so development charges shouldn't be paid with respect to what you're replacing. So that the simple example being if you're taking a single detached home, demolishing it, rebuilding it as a new single detached home, there's no increase in demand for service, you're just replicating what was already there, so there would be a credit granted equal to the charge that would be payable. But if you're to demolish that single family home and rebuild it with a 6-unit townhome, then you would calculate the charge for the 6-unit townhome and deduct the applicable charge for the single detached home that's being replaced. For those redevelopment credits to apply, the redevelopment does need to occur within 5 years of demolition. The rationale being here that at some point, once the building is demolished, the municipality no longer continues to maintain the service capacity for that former unit as you go through servicing assessments and so forth. At some point, that gets reassigned to other development. And as well, the credit cannot exceed the charge that would be payable. So there's no amount payable to the applicant. The credit can't be greater than the charge payable. So last item then in terms of the policies, in terms of how the charge gets increased annually, the Act allows for the charges to be increased on an annual basis to allow for the charge to keep pace with the changes in the capital cost that it's meant to recover and fund. That can be done on a mandatory or a discretionary basis. What's proposed is that would be done on a mandatory basis on January 1st of each year, and the Act sets forth the prescribed index, which is a non-residential building construction price index for Ottawa or Toronto, and so in your case, you would use Ottawa. And I guess the other item I should mention as well is that the bylaw would have a maximum life of 10 years as dictated in the Act. However, municipalities have the ability to either pass new bylaws or amend their existing bylaw at any point. So in terms of next steps, as the study hasn't yet been finalized, we look to receive final direction from council and staff to prepare the background study. That needs to be prepared and posted on your website at least 2 weeks prior to the statutory public meeting, and as well at least 60 days prior to when the bylaw would be passed. So with the proposed dates for the public meetings haven't yet been determined, but looking at the week of May 5th, that would mean that the background study would need to be posted on your website around April 21st, 2 weeks in advance of the determined date. And then after that public meeting, which would be no decision made at that point, the bylaw would come back to council for your consideration for adoption and approval at the July 16th council meeting. So that does conclude my remarks and overview. I'm available if there are any questions.
Well, thank you very much. Excellent work and great information. Lots to ingest, digest, et cetera. But open it up to the council team for comments or questions. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mayor Brown. Thank you for the report and presentation. I do have a couple questions regarding the residential rates. Can that be a phased-in rate as well? That you know, not saying we will, but let's say we do accept the 20,623 per dwelling unit. Could that be phased in over a period of 3 or 4 years, where we start a little bit lower and it's recognized over a period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. So the charge that's been presented here, and just to clarify, the $20,000 includes the connection, the $10,000 connection charge was already in effect. So if we're speaking about the new $10,000 development charge, that's the maximum council can put in place. Council has the, council can impose a lower charge if they wish. You can phase that charge in. You just can't impose more than that charge.
Okay, subsequent. I may have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the development charges, the comparison sheet, and what kind of struck me here a little bit from the other municipalities, again, on the residential charges alone, they seem to be considerably lower than, we're half of what we're being proposed today. Is that a true comparison with the water and wastewater rates in there as well from the other municipalities?
So it is a comparison of what they do impose currently. Whether those other municipalities, especially the ones that are using connection charges. So if we're looking at some of the other municipalities in the United Counties, so North Glengarry, North Stormont, South Glengarry, that all have pretty much the same rate of around $10,000 per unit. Whether those charges are reflective of their needs, I couldn't say, as I haven't worked on those myself. I can point out that so Stormont, for example, they're currently updating their development charge background study, and so those rates may change or will change.
Okay, thank you. We'll have to go back and forth. Yeah, I think we need time to digest this. I'm suggesting we probably should have a subsequent meeting among council and staff to go over these rates, and when I look at the chart, there could be, based on a 200 home residential subdivision, a $2 million spread between a local neighboring municipality to us, which is a big hit, which could deter future development in South Dundas. So I think we should have a little bit of a discussion with staff. When you calculated the when you calculated the rates, so it says fire protection 2,600, services related to the highway 750, parks and rec 6989, and growth related studies. Obviously, there's a further breakdown on how you achieve these individual numbers, correct?
That's correct. So within each service area, we looked at the individual capital projects that were required to meet the increase in demand for service and looked at how those projects could be allocated to existing development versus new growth. And so, for example, Parks and Recreation, which represents the greatest share of that charge, they had the greatest cumulative capital cost of those projects.
And when, just a couple questions on the specifics. I'm trying not to get too much in the weeds, but I think I need to know this. And I may want to see these calculations as well. I mean, do we have contingencies built in here? Do we have a risk cost in here? I've seen some pretty detailed DC background studies. And when it's being dissected, or when you dissect the actual cost for each line item, it's not unusual that sometimes they're inflated because somebody may have calculated inflated contingency value or risk further on. So I'm just want to understand a little bit how we really, and I understand what you're saying about the capital cost, but I really want to get into the minutiae. Maybe we can defer this to another meeting, but I think it's important for us to understand.
Sure. So without getting into too much detail, I can confirm that none of the projects expressly include any additional contingencies or provision for risk in the future. They're based on the anticipated capital cost in 2025 dollars.
Okay, thank you. I think that's about it. Again, I just think we need to digest this a little bit. I just looking at the costs, and I was not a proponent at first. Councillor Ward, who's not here, kind of convinced me to look at DC charges, but I wasn't expecting to have as high as DC charges. So I think we should digest this and have a further discussion.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. The question that I had was, if there's some new rules that come down perhaps for some either provincial government or federal government regarding development charges, is that going to change all these calculations that we're doing right now? And is it possible that these may end up just going away? Like we may not be able to do this in the future, or how is that going to affect things?
So I guess it's a big unknown, really, right? So if there are changes at the provincial level that change the Development Charges Act and what you're allowed to recover for, which there have been a number of since 2019, the Act's been amended, I think, about 7 or 8 times. That could change potentially these calculations. If there are other changes of the nature that have been, you might have heard about in the news in different provincial and federal platforms in terms of just sort of blanket reductions or limitations, again, not knowing the details of those, that wouldn't necessarily change these calculations. It might just change your ability to ultimately recover what that growth-related cost is.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, so obviously, first step, appreciate getting the information. I think something that we're, although we know about DC charges, we don't know how they affect us specifically. So more things to think about. And I agree with Deputy Mayor, like we want to have more discussions about it for sure. Certainly having the public meeting, I think, to get input as well on that is important. So I think we have future council meetings where we can have discussions at it. Certainly want to hear from Councillor Ward's position for sure, where we're at, and she says her regrets tonight, or she would be here. So I think we have opportunities to look at it, and we're not certainly bound by the dates of the next steps, but I think we should definitely continue to have conversations and move forward thinking about it. That way? Good. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for presenting tonight. That's excellent information for us. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move to our next delegation. We have the Canada Day Committee. Who do we have? We have Kristen Wilshire with us tonight. Welcome. And you can turn your mic on when you're ready.
So, good evening, Mayor Broad, Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, Councillor Vino, and Councillor Smith. As Mayor Broad just said, my name is Kirsten Wilshire, and I'm the chairperson for the Morrisburg Canada Day Committee for the second year in a row. I'm here again to invite all of you to the Canada Day celebration. We welcome any and or all of you to stay to the stage that day to say a few words. I'm also here to request a few things again. For starters, we've changed the musical organizer for this year. Montreal's Montreal's Long and McQuaid has donated half the amount for the sound system and the light show. However, they feel that the existing power supply is not quite sufficient for the equipment that they have. So I'm asking for our council's permission to have our local electrician, Paul Plant, come to the site to see if a temporary power source can be installed for that day. That's one. Last year, we requested that the boulders be moved, so we're requesting that again. It worked out perfectly to accommodate the stage that was put in there. That was done about 2 days prior to July 1st. The donation of the picnic tables, the garbage cans, garbage bags, and the barriers were greatly appreciated. However, one of the drawbacks was the horse-drawn carriage that's going to be returning this year was his allotted spot seemed to get smaller and smaller each time he came back from his route because more and more cars were there. We got approximately 4,000 people last year. I don't know if everybody saw that, but we were flooded by people. It was fantastic. So we're asking actually for almost double the amount of barriers. And so we'll be using them throughout the park. The other thing is that knowing now that we can't put our banner over Ottawa Street, we're looking at other options. There is one spot that we have in mind, and it's the one that's behind the post office near the roundabout. The Dundas Manor sign is there, and we were just wondering if we can kind of like piggyback on the bottom of that or on the top or whatever. Because we would love to have our signs up by like May 1st, if that's a possibility. That's only one spot that we've kind of seen as a really good spot, but we're kind of open to suggestions and approval, of course, from the council as to where else we can be putting them. We do have two of them, and they're approximately about 10 feet long. So they are significant size. To finish up here, I'd like to again thank you very much to our council members for their participation in last year's Pie in the Face and the Dunk Tank. I understand that Deputy Mayor St. Pierre might have had a little bit of an injury, and do apologize for that. But you were a big hit. It was you actually, between yourself and Councillor Ward, brought in $271 that day, just in the dunk tank. And the Pie in the Face brought in $835. So in total, there was $1,106 that was raised by our council. It was very well received. We thank you so much. It showed all of your sense of humors, made you very approachable to our community that for people that would not normally come across you. So we appreciate it very much. Therefore, we invite you all to come back. The Pie in the Face was extremely successful, and we would like to do it again. That being said, we are a committee that likes to change things up. So if there's something else that our council would like to do, we are very open to suggestions. Some things that we've, thought of is like, the slime things or giggly string, or there's a few of you up there with facial hair that we could, shave off. We're just throwing it out there, okay? Of course. So again, I thank you for your time. Here is surprisingly, this $1,106 has been sitting in my drawer, untouched, since last year. We did discuss the idea of donating it to a fundraiser of your choosing. I am just going to put it out there. I would love to ask you to donate it maybe back to our Morrisburg Canada Day Committee funds, and that would be up to you, and you can let me know if you'd like to donate that back. Thank you for your time. I will hand this off to Tia or whoever. Okay?
Well, thank you, Ms. Kristen, Ms. Wilshire, for presenting on behalf of the committee. Fantastic job. We were all involved, but I was down there early and wanted to take a helicopter ride, but that lineup was so big, it was like, it was unbelievable how successful that was. So loved it. And Mike Thompson and having the flyovers, the work he did on the flyovers was incredible with that, with the military aircraft, and just all the events overall was impressive. And I know we recognized it last August at our council meeting and how wonderful it was. Interesting enough, Iroquois Business Group meeting yesterday morning, we were talking about all the events, and they're like, so the Morrisburg does the South Dundas Canada Day for all of South Dundas, and Candace and the group were like, yeah, they love it, and it's on the calendar, and it's like, that's where, if people ask them about, what goes on in the municipality of South Dundas, it's Morrisburg during Canada Day. So that's conversations we have, and very appreciative of all the work and the fireworks and all the things everybody does. Yeah, super happy to sign up for some sort of fundraising event, whatever we decide. Shaving faces might be good. I like that. So whatever we decide. Yeah, fantastic. 4,000 visitors to our community is on a single day is fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure we can work with facilities and find a power source. If not, get a generator. I'm sure there's a situation we can figure that out. Move the rocks, set up some more parking spots. Yeah, I'm sure it's all doable. And I'm pretty sure we may be able to put the banner back up in its previous location. I will confirm that with Rideau St. Lawrence. Those are the conversations I had after Tubi weekend last year. So I think we may be able to do that, but I will confirm 100% on that with Simon, the president of Rideau St. Lawrence. So otherwise, yeah, no, very, very happy. Other comments, questions? And I'm not really sure what got hurt on you, but
you would not have seen what got hurt on me. No, I think you guys did a fabulous job. I always think every year it gets bigger and better, and I congratulate you and your team. I just think it's wonderful. I think there was 3 things, right? There was a pie in the face, dunk tank, and what was the other option we had? Was the bull rider or bull? Yeah.
So
what I would say is, if I would have known how much padding was around that bull, I probably would have done that first, okay? But I thoroughly enjoyed the dunk tank. I mean, it's not because it hurt me. I think I hurt myself. I had a bruise on my tailbone like that for about 3 months. But that was just because I was a little bit more out of shape than anything, and I was leaning back more than I should have. But yeah, absolutely, I'm in. If you do the dunk tank again, oh God, I would be in, but the water's got to be not yellow this year. That's all I would ask. And I don't think it's because anybody was urinating in it. I think it's just the way it happened, okay? But yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. Congratulations, and fully support.
Councilor Vino?
Yep. That was awesome. It was a lot of fun. So I too am in for some kind of embarrassing something or other. The facial hair is probably going to stay on me. I think I've had that battle a couple times. And not to put council on the spot, but I think as far as the funds raised last year, I would be happy to give it back to the Canada Day Committee. So that's fine. Thank you.
Councilor Smith?
So there's nothing that I loved any more of any event last year than getting a pie in the face from my daughter. I think that she loved it as well. I'd like to extend the invitation as well. We have some new members of our management team here that maybe you could show up some Saturday morning for something as well. Yeah. I did have a question. Maybe this is for Director Jansen. What is there right now for power supply, and what could we do to improve it?
So through you, Mayor Broad, put me a little on the spot. I don't have a perfect answer. There is a electrical panel outside that supplies the light in the park and the splash pad. There's another panel that goes into the washroom. It wouldn't surprise me if they are probably 60. Some of them might only be 60 amp services. They're kind of older. I might be 100 off the top of my head, but I'd have to take a look. But I bet you there's probably only 2 or 3 plugs on 15 amp fuses type of thing. But I can get our electrician out there or work with the Canada Day Committee and see if there's a quick, easy, if it's a $400, $500, put in a breaker and put 2 plugs right beside the breaker, easy solution. But if there's actually not enough service, then we're looking at more the generator route would be the economic way to go.
All right, very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your team and looking forward to it. One last thing. Yeah, go ahead, Kristen.
So unfortunately, the dunk tank is not returning this year. But Jed is. Jed the mechanical bull will be. So if that's one of the things that we want to put on the agenda, that's perfect. Thank you very much. I will take this kindly, and we'll give it to our treasurer. If you'd like to set up a time to go, we could have our music coordinator come and take a look and kind of with you, and we can go and look at it that way. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone's time. And if anyone does want to participate that day, reach out.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, super impressed with the music lineup. So seeing the post and all that, so that's great. So it's gonna be a fun day. Fun day. Okay, moving along on the agenda to action request 7A, WW 2025-01, approval of the 2024 Water and Wastewater Annual Report. Manager Villeneuve, Water and Wastewater.
Just before he gets going, I think maybe we're getting feedback because the TV may not be muted in front of us. Could we just try to mute that? See if that helps us with the... Sorry, just be easy.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure.
No, may not be, but
It was actually really good having that. I didn't have to wear my glasses and look at the person and see the PowerPoint. So it was really good having that, and then the bigger TV faces out. So that's great. Welcome, Manager Villeneuve.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In front of you is our 2024 Water and Wastewater Annual Reports. First of all, I'd just like to thank PCT Chris St. Thomas and Chelsea Fletcher. As you're aware, it's the first year that we took over from Aqua doing the compliance, and they did a great job getting the reports together. I'm really basically just looking for a resolution so we can send this off to the ministry and have it on the municipality website.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's excellent work by you and your staff. This was a big cost savings in our water wastewater budget, moving away from, paying a consultant to do the reports where we could do them in-house, and we have the expertise and challenge our staff to do that. So I thank you for that. Any questions about the report itself, Deputy Mayor?
yeah, not really on the report.
Or
Just
comments,
yeah, just on the water main breaks. I think there was 11 identified. Is that kind of what's off the top? I should have maybe called you and asked you. What's our average? Is that have you noticed an incline on water main breaks, or is it kind of the 10, 11, 12 per year?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. This year has been a significant amount of water breaks. We're typically around 7. That's the kind of the going, but this was a cold winter. February was like everyone thinks that like the colder weather is that's when you get your water breaks, but it's not typically the case. It's more like when it gets hot and then goes cold and hot and cold, and that's when the ground's heaving up and down. So, but this was a bad year. It was 11 water breaks, and as you're aware, we have another one on the go right now. We're trying to get resolved. So, yeah, it was a bad break, but I was talking to some other directors in other municipalities, and they've had more than the normal too. So it's
Deputy Mayor, I will say you were right. We were getting feedback from the TV, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I have a resolution that staff report WW 2025-01 be received that the Council Municipality of South Dundas accept and approve the 2024 annual report for Williamsburg, Iroquois, Morrisburg wastewater system and South Dundas drinking water system report. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor or Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Manager Villeneuve. Okay, moving along to 7B, FES 2025-03, tender results for the Fire Chief SUV. Fire Chief, Fire Emergency Services, Jeremy Eldred Hughes. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following our last meeting and committee of the whole, there was discussion for the tender results for the Fire Chief's vehicle. So before you is just an action request looking to award the tender to Capital Dodge.
Questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, I have a motion that, yeah, Councillor Smith, sorry about that.
Yeah, through Mayor, but I just said it's just for the SUV, correct? So who's going to do the upfitting afterwards? Because that's not included. I'm just curious about that.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we did get 3 quotes on upfitting, and there is a company called, I'm going to mess up the pronunciation, Sterlmar, just outside of Belleville. That's the cheapest, coming in at about $12,000.
So just, are we going to see that as well, like later? Okay, all right, just curious.
Yeah, oh, good
We'll
question.
bring that back.
Yeah, very good. Okay, a motion that council approve report FES 2025-03 to purchase Enforcer SSV SUV Dodge Durango in the amount of $56,325 plus HST from Capital Dodge Ottawa, and the Director of Fire Emergency Services be authorized to sign all necessary documents to give effect to that contract. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Carried. Okay, moving to 7C, TS 2025-05, pre-budget approval, single axle truck. Director of Transportation, Jeff Hyman, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I dread to start thinking about snow. I want it to end, but however, here we are. So we're starting to plan for 2026 and our fleet replacement schedule. So President, what I'm asking for is pre-budget approval so I can start the tendering process to look for pricing for a single axle truck, and we'll retrofit our existing equipment on the vehicle unit number 84, which we presently took out of service last fall due to engine issues where it would not pass the emissions test. So it's more or less simple. We're going to use canoe procurement to retain 3 prices from local, why I say local, within the area of vendors. And once that's completed, then I'll come back with you with the pricing to purchase, plus the retro price to remove the hardware off of our existing truck, have it sandblasted, painted, new valves, new hydraulic hoses, new pumps installed on the new chassis, and to give you an end number so that we can budget in 2026 to receive the vehicle in 2026. So I can answer any questions which you may have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Hyman. Yeah, just a quick question. The retrofit work, can we do some of that in-house, or we have to outsource, or a combination thereof?
So through you, Mayor Broad, no, that'll strictly all be done through the snowplow manufacturer, which is Gincor plow harness.
Sure.
So they'll do the, essentially we're sole sourcing because they are the supplier of that hardware. So they'll do the removal off of the existing truck. They'll do all the sandblasting, painting, and the installation so that it's done properly and that we have some warranty. So this will be the first truck that we go the retro process. And I hope that it turns out well for us, because then that'll be a reduced cost moving forward.
Yes, we're looking at cost savings by being able to do this.
Exactly.
Very good. Councilor Vino.
I just want to say I appreciate the creativity of doing the refurb, because like, it's unfortunate that truck only had 62,000 kilometers on it and it no longer is fit for the road. And I know it's because of our procurement back then was with that particular engine, but that equipment wouldn't have a whole lot of service on it. So it's nice to be able to reuse it on some trucks. So thank you.
Good. Okay, motion that council, the municipality of South Dundas accept report TS 2025-05 for a pre-budget approval to purchase single axle truck to be used as plow truck to replace unit 76 or unit 79. Moved by Councilor Smith, seconded by Councilor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, D, PF 2025-05 tender results, Iroquois Beach Cube Replacement. Director of Parks, Recreations, Facilities, Derek Jansen.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. So in front of you tonight is a little bit more tender results for us. So this is the start of the 2025 season for me. This is the Iroquois Beach Cube tender that was included in the 2025 budget. Hindsight, especially with all the information after the tenders closed, I wish I would have just sole sourced it. If council's wondering why, I think we only got one bid because the product is very specific. I'm looking at reusing the ladders because we just replaced some of the ladders 2 years ago. So I really wanted to get the exact same cubes. So in hindsight, maybe we should have just saved a couple of weeks of tendering time there. So there is just the one bid. It's from the same supplier who's supplied all the beach cubes that we already have, that we have a good relationship with. On the second half of this, you will see the disposal of the existing. This is where there's a couple more unknowns here. I am recommending that we partner with the town of Prescott. They've reached out once they saw that we were getting rid of our beach cubes. We have, I'm going to use a nice round number of about 500 beach cubes in Iroquois. They're looking at putting in about a 10 by 10 little raft. So they're going to, as we take ours apart, sort of pick out the good ones, and we'll send them, and they'll try and limp them through those last 1 to 5 years of life. You never really know if it's going to get one more year out of it or 5. It's kind of an unknown as to when the plastic's going to crack. So that's sort of what I'm recommending there. I think it's a good thing for our partnership. It sees some recreation move there. I was at the rural recreation event today and had an opportunity to talk to them. I kind of hinted that my council report was going today, and I'll leave it up to council if they want to give me a little bit of direction otherwise, but I kind of hinted towards, rather than selling them to them, that they would take on the responsibility of the disposal of all of the damaged or excess cubes. So that would reduce some of our burden there and sort of be a good compromise as a win-win for everybody. Ultimately, a lot of moving parts there to government entities, so they have to go to their council, get approval. So this might be a little bit of a process, but something I wanted to make council aware of with the disposal of the old cubes. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor Broad. I really do appreciate the additional explanation on the town of Prescott, because my first reaction with reading this report was, why would we give these to another municipality when they're going to use it, when we should just be refurbishing and using them and limping along for a little bit longer? But your explanation definitely helped, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilor Vino?
Just curiosity, what is the lifespan of these? And I think we may have asked that in the past. I just don't remember it.
So yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, I believe, it's almost as old as me. I believe that they were about 15 to 20 years is sort of what you're looking at. It kind of depends on waves, sun, like some in and out cycles, how it winters. And ultimately, like, there's a few cubes that end up in high wear spots and some that don't. But we have already replaced, the odd cube here and there, and we're kind of borrowing from one. I know a couple years ago when we got the new raft in Iroquois, we dismantled the old raft, stole 4 or 5, 6 cubes and tried to replace some in the main section, but the main sections reached the point where we can't keep scabbing it together anymore.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. And just on the same topic of the cost, I mean, this is, in my opinion, a perfect example why we should try to recoup some cost through user fees is to replace these things. What I would like to see is, as part of that program, if we move forward with it, it's unknown at this point, but I think what we should do is be creating advertisement at the beaches to say, this is, the user fees collected have been for this project, this project, this project, and this project. So people understand that it's a direct user fee to help with the improvement of our beaches, so I just want to add that in. Thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. Just curious, whenever you mentioned the disposal, if we just decided on our own just to dispose of them, they're going to go to our landfill, or are we going to send them to Moose Creek and pay to dispose of them?
Director?
So yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. Honestly, I would actually probably attempt option number 2 in my, because there's no harm in us, which was to try and sell the whole lot. You can put it on Gov Deals and you can say 20-year-old beach cubes, condition varies, but ultimately, like, I'll keep you with 500 cubes. If, Mayor Broad wanted to haul some down to his cottage in the States, he probably doesn't 500 cubes, he only needs 100, but he might be willing to take that risk. But I think partnering with Prescott is a great way to go.
Deputy?
Did you not watch the video? It would be to his house in Mooresburg, in Canada.
I don't have a cottage in.
I know it was just an example.
I don't have a cottage in the U.S., but thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Obviously, working out with Prescott, if they're going to take him and dispose of them, then that saves us that fees as well. And if they could, put together 10 or 20 to make a little raft for their short-term use, then that's great. Council's okay with that? Yeah, okay, very good. So I have a motion that council accept report PF 2025 to award tender PRF 2501 for supply replacement beach cubes in the amount of $62,762.60 plus HST 2000 Island Dock Limited. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Continuing along, Director, PF 2025-06 tractor replacement Club Cadet Unit 43.
So yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. So in front of you is a great use of, as Director Hyman already noted, Canoe, which gave us access to, I will actually admit, quite competitive pricing whenever the prices came back from the suppliers. They put the unit price and then they put their Canoe discount in it. And, some of them were significant, cash and carry type of discounts. So I'm recommending moving forward with the 35 horsepower Kubota. You'll see there is a little bit of varying prices in there. Mostly that's with size. We're replacing our existing 35 horsepower. With the specs we were looking for, the advantage to using Canoe here was that I could have conversations with the dealer rather than a rigid spec and, sort of talk around, what would work best for the municipality, because ultimately, the Massey specs are similar but not quite the same, whereas if I make a specification, they don't meet it. So I think it was a great use of Canoe here. I very much enjoyed the process. And outside of that, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Seeing none, I have a motion that council approve report PF 2025-06 for the purchase of a replacement utility tractor, loader, mower as described from Top Line Trailer and Equipment. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Continuing, PF 2025-07, stop up and close Frank and James Street, Iroquois. Director Jansen.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Broad, this report here is actually just to start the process for council. So this is, we decided that we'd get council's approval, then we'll go out for the notice. And so after the notice period, council will see the formal bylaw for the stop up and close. But as you're aware, the last little while, we've been working pretty hard to get the Iroquois Plaza project moving. I'll admit the tender has been eating up a fair amount of my time. I think I'm at the finish line. I think I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm hoping to get that out either end of this week, early next week, and then it'll be out for about 20 days. So I think we're getting close there. In that same stream, the last thing I want to do is have the tender close and have a contractor who's looking for work and me go, wait, we actually have to close these roads first. So the idea here is that we start the process, get the notice period going, and then if the contractor isn't able to work early, Director Hyman and I will work together and we'll get some Jersey barriers out there and still, execute the stop up and close in a more temporary matter. But this is just for council to approve the idea of moving forward with the stop up and close.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Just a quick question for you. The drawing that's created that shows kind of the green area and whatnot, I think we at one time talked about, and I would like to either work with you guys or suggest that main entrance that comes through to the, in front of the, across from the Esso, we had talked about shifting that over a little bit to better align with that entrance to the Esso. And I'd like to see that happen, because right now, if you look at the Google map, you look at the entrance, there's a little bit of a skew there, and I think it's better served, and it's not eating a lot, you're just moving a little bit to the west. I think I'd like to see that happen as well. I know maybe it's not part of the bylaw that goes through, but I am reacting to the drawing. I think it's better served if we can get that aligned a little better.
So your request, just so I'm clear, is to have Plaza Drive line up more with the
yes.
the cross street.
So you see,
Yep.
you see this one here, we just be over here a little bit. Yeah, it might be a light.
Yeah, sure. Like you said, I don't think it affects the stop up and close of James and Frank, but certainly it has, leading on stuff that's happening in the parking lot.
Yeah. So if we could just put that as a note for future reference.
Manager Hyman?
I think the only thing, through you, Mayor Broad, I think the only thing that we need to be aware of is the fact that the Iroquois Plaza sign is in the vicinity of that area where you want the new roadway to be. That would be the only thing that we'd have to review. Without moving that sign.
Yeah, fair enough. But I think that's part of I'd like to sit down with you and David and look at this a little bit more closely if we can. I'm just looking at the width. I mean, and I'm always suggesting that maybe it needs to go over a couple meters, not like it needs to go over. It just looks like that sign is away enough that we can better realign it. But I'd like to work with both of you to see if we can get that to happen. If that's okay through.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Manager.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Broad, we can work that into the tender. I know the tender, like I'm doing it right now, it's going to have a survey in and a survey out before, like a pre-construction and a final construction survey. So it might even be better suited that the contractor's involved in the conversations as well, right?
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Cool. Okay. I have a motion that council direct staff to proceed with the notice period and process to stop up and close portions of Frank Street and James Street as outlined in report PF 2025-07. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Last one, Director, PF 2025-08, tender results, Justice Building washroom renovation.
Through you, Mayor Broad, I hope I still get to present my bylaws, so hopefully this isn't the last
Oh,
one.
yeah, no, last one under, what are we on? Action request. We'll get to you on 8.
You had me excited for a second. To the council, this is another one of the projects that we had budgeted for this year. Came in under budget here. We had budgeted $275,000 for this project, and there is a little bit of consulting that isn't included in the contractor price. So we did get 4 bids on this one. The lowest contractor was $112,000. It was I'm quite happy with, if we see that price at the end of the day, well, I think we'll be quite happy, and maybe I'll be coming back to council to spend some of the unspent money, or we'll be transferring into the facilities reserve. But I did get a chance to talk with the contractor a little bit last week, so we went through their bid and a little bit of the scope there. So I clarified a few questions I had and made sure that they were good there. I did talk to the contractor's references as well. I'm still waiting to hear back from DCC. I talked to both of the military personnel. They hold the recurring services for Kingston and Brockville for all the maintenance at D&D bases. They have a recurring base there. So they have an entire team based out of Kingston. That's sort of the team that'll be coming here. Outside of that, I'm happy to answer any questions if council has any.
Oh, thank you for extra chance. I know you've been working on this for a while, and certainly appreciate seeing quotes come back lower than expected, which is great. And I'm going to give the same spiel I said at County Council last month was all these savings we might be seeing, quite a few of unknowns coming forward in the next 6 months, tariffs and a lot of other things. So we'll just hold any of our savings and then decide that maybe closer to the end of the year how we address those for sure. So let's not get too excited on moving other projects ahead until we have a better picture of what 2025 really looks like. So, but I appreciate the cost savings and everybody's excitement to get it into work in that area. Any questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion that council accept report PF 2025-08 to award the Justice Building washroom renovation to Armaclan Engineering Limited in the amount of $112,780 plus HST, and that the clerk and director of Parks, Recreation, Facilities be authorized to execute the contract. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we'll move to bylaws under 8A, staying with Director Jansen, 2025-28 lease extension 5th Street West. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So this one, just I guess it's the 6th extension of a 5-year lease. So obviously the OPP have been in the Justice Building since it got renovated, and it really became what is now the Justice Building. So no real changes to a lot of the terms here, just a 5-year extension.
Questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, I have a motion that the Council of South Dundas approve bylaw 2025-28, being a bylaw to enter into a lease extension and amending agreement with His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Government and Infrastructure Ontario, be read and passed sealed in open council. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. And 8B, 2025-29 North Dundas Automatic Bid Agreement. Fire Chief Hughes, Alfred Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For you is an amended automatic aid agreement bylaw with our neighbors of North Dundas. This amended agreement removes the standby costs of $9,500 per year imposed on South Dundas, and outlines a basic cost recovery model inside it. We've also looked into our insurance coverages that are named in the bylaw, and we can confirm that they do meet the industry standards and what's being put in these agreements. So North Dundas, I believe, presented this and signed March 12th. So we're just looking for council's approval to.
Very good. Another excellent work by staff finding savings out there in our budget. So that's another good piece of work. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments? And thank you for addressing. I know from last time we had the insurance question. That was a follow-up question, so I think that was addressed. All right, seeing none, I have a motion that council receive report FES 2025-05 regarding the automatic aid agreement between the municipality of South Dundas and the township of North Dundas, and the council adopt bylaw 2025-29 being a bylaw to enter into automatic aid agreement with the township of North Dundas, and the bylaw 2019-63 is hereby repealed in its entirety. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to boards and committees. Border Mayors Alliance. So several meetings and working groups. And we kicked off the meeting tonight with the SD&G video, which kind of ties together with a lot of the work we're kind of doing at the Border Mayors Alliance. And certainly we're strategizing and sharing stories, you know, at the municipal levels, the mayors, we're really talking about and executing open arms. I know there's a lot of lingo out there, you know, with elbows up in the federal government and protection of our economy and, you know, and the resulting reciprocal tariffs, et cetera. So lots of things going on, but as the mayors, we continue to reach out and try and work with our neighbors and be open to tourism, which I'll talk about. We had a tourism summit today. So lots of work still going on at the mayor borders. Obviously, some of the bigger mayors, like Mayor Dilkins with the city of Windsor, impacted quite a bit with, you know, car tariffs, right? So his work is kind of in a different way, but for a lot of us other mayors, we're just continuing to work and stay positive, think about our own communities, and think about any tourists that want to travel, whether it's from coast to coast of Canada or from the south. That's great. So continue to work in those areas. Councillor Smith, South Nation Conservation Annual General Meeting a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so their AGM was on March 20th. There was a presentation by Jeff Rydell, who was the manager of the River Institute. He was their guest speaker for the day. Board elections, we have, returning as chair is Steve Densham from North Stormont Township. Adrian Winans is the vice chair, he's from Augusta Township, and replacing George DeRuse. George was the past chair. George had resigned due to his new position as an MPP, so taking his place is Catherine Kitts, who is also Ottawa City Councillor. So, and they've also renamed that position as the second vice chair rather than a past chair. One of the things that they're doing on their executive is they're always going to try and have the 3 top executive spots covered by people from different jurisdictions. So we have Leeds and Grenville, SD&G, City of Ottawa, and right now Prescott Russell is not covered, although they do have other directors, but it's just nobody on the executive right now. With the recent provincial election, there's a bit of a cabinet shovel there, so conservation authorities are now moved back under MECP. They were there before, but they most recently were with MNRF, so it's back with MECP now. Just some highlights for the year. They did boardwalk expansion at Finley Creek. Lots of trail maintenance at Two Creeks, lots of trail maintenance at Robert Graham, which is in our area. There's also a lot of work done, just general cleanup and some bank stabilization at Oak Valley Pioneer Park, which is just north of us, just north on the north side, basically, of County Road 5, which is the boundary with North Dundas. And as well, they did a lot of trail maintenance at Warwick Forest, which is in Berwick. They set a record for overall trail visits, which are counted by their trail counters at all their conservation areas in 2024, just over 250,000. So that was a record.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll put you on the spot. Any updates or tree giveaways that's coming up?
Coming soon.
Coming soon?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen it advertised on some social media. It should be out there now.
Pretty soon.
The sign up.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Under D, Regional Incentive Program.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Not a lot that I can disclose, other than we did meet on March 25th. We had several applications, an overall value worth $464,097. Our budget is $250,000. So there was some real good candidates. We had some good discussions. It was a couple hours long, but we were there at the 250 or so. And I'm assuming it's going to come to county council at the next.
Did we have some applicants from South Dundas?
No, we didn't. Unfortunately, we did
Okay.
not. We had 5 or 6 North Dundas. We had 5 or 6 from kind of everywhere except for South Dundas. So
We've had quite a few in the past couple of years. It's cyclical, so continue to work on that.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Under E, Rideau St. Lawrence Board Meeting. So a little longer update than usual, as we kind of wrapping up everything that happened in 2024 leading into 2025. And some of the major projects Rideau St. Lawrence Utilities worked on, Prescott Long-Term Care Home. We got the housing project here in Morrisburg, the retail development in Iroquois, the Seaway High School upgrades, Prescott Grocery Store, the Safavia warehouse, obviously Merkley Oaks is up and going, construction in Westport, the Land Arc, obviously just come online is the hotel in Prescott. So that's just more services that we've connected to, which is just more electrical sales, which is as owners of the utility, part owners of utilities, that's always good news for us. Operational change, Lane Scott is now our operational manager. We continue to change out PCB transformers. Hydro rates continue to increase at our we're regulated on hydro rates, so they continue to creep up every year. So 3.4% as per our legislated agreement. We're in compliance. We're not doing water billing anymore for the village of Westport. They're doing it on their own. So a little bit of lost revenue for us there. RSL, we continue to see strong operational metrics, and we'll have a audited financial report here in the next couple of months. So we'll be able to share where we did financially. AGM location is going to be in Westport this August, and then we'll return to South Dundas in 2026 for the AGM for the Rideau St. Lawrence Board. So that was the update from Rideau St. Lawrence. Under F, SCG special county meeting. Was one item that we needed to pass, so we had a motion for a bylaw to enter into a municipal agreement between SD&G and the Maxwell Manor, so as that continues to move ahead and to get that built. Ontario Good Roads Conference, so Deputy Mayor and myself and some staff, CO DeHaan. First time I got to mention CO DeHaan's name, so welcome, CO DeHaan. We're keeping you taking notes. That's great. And Clerk LeBrun, Director Hyman, and Villeneuve were all good growth. So we had some good sessions with the main course, did a few course sessions. So learned a lot, bringing back more activities, and of course some networking activities, and the trade show, which is a great activity for our staff to continue to learn about products out there. Anything to add, Deputy Mayor, on Good Roads? No, that was about it. And then Iroquois Business Group, so myself, CO DeHaan, UCDEV, Community Improvement, Tia Fraser-Dupuis, and Director Jansen and I all attend the Iroquois Business Group meeting yesterday morning. Starting to ramp all their activities up. They've got their brochure out with all the activities, certainly throughout South Dundas. A lot focused on the things that are happening in Iroquois, but they do include all the other villages as well. So that committee continues to work to drive business in the Iroquois Mall is their area. So just going through some activities. Director Jansen shared some of the work with the upstop and closure and some of the conversations around work that we're doing at the shopping mall itself. So they continue to work hard, and they're growing. Their membership is continuing to grow, and they continue to have a good turnout at their meetings. So we execute them Tuesday mornings at 7:30, so early morning meetings before the business is open. So thanks to Candace LaTulip and her team for everything they do for that Iroquois. Okay, consent agenda. 10A, KRR for Iroquois Waterfront Arboretum, a KRR for 2025 Household Hazardous Waste Days. C, update STD Library Board. D, request letter South Dundas United Soccer for the road closure. And E, resolution municipality Nazi symbols of technology. So I have a motion that all the items listed under consent be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Reno. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 2 discussion items. So we'll move to 11A, proposed animal or changes to animal control bylaw. Andrew Turner, welcome.
Good evening, Council and Mayor, and through you. My name is Andrew Turner. I'm Chief Building Official. Basically, what you have in front of you is an action report to repeal and update our animal control bylaw. The current one is dated back to 2002, so we were looking to update it to basically bring it a little bit more to current terms as far as legalities, some of our procedures, fines, etc., and powers for us to enhance what we have and improve it.
Yeah, very good. Have we thought about, maybe we talked about it maybe a year ago, dog tags, removing dog tags? I know as we're moving to a new kennel, and and that, I don't know if that was a consideration you guys have talked about, or I've seen other municipalities have removed dog tag licensing or moving to other systems. I don't know if you've thought about that at all.
What we did with this specific bylaw is change the wording so it's not just dog tags. It could be any form of identification.
Identification of a dog,
So then we
right.
can look at dog tags as a separate item if we wish to continue.
Okay.
Or dispense or go maybe subcontract or something like that as well. So that's not specific with this. This is more just to kind of enhance enforcement for what we have. Basically, I've been waiting all month to say this one has more teeth in it.
Well, thank you for, yeah, no, you know, we've been doing a lot with animal control with our dog pound, et cetera, and certainly, you know, that type of work changes, you know, for now that we have social media, you know, finding lost dogs or picking up your lost dog and chipping. I mean, pet owners have chips in their dogs now and more than one tag, so just interesting on how this, you know, changes over the years, so interesting. Any other comments or discussions with Director Turner, Andrew Turner? Oh, okay, well, that's great. Well, thank you for that. And I guess we'll have, oh yeah, Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broad. The only thing I was going to add was if there's no feedback from council, then we'll be bringing this bylaw back at the next meeting for adoption, and we'll repeal the old one. And we can also bring back a report on dog tags at a future date too. just
Sure. Yeah,
an
I think that if
analysis
we
of
have the
it.
wording right, then we don't have to worry about the bylaw. We can set what the fees are if we want to have a discussion on that or not. It was just something I was thinking about. So very good. Okay. Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor, you wanted to talk Sienna right away and vegetation management.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Not really vegetative management, more of drainage ditch management. As you know, we've received some calls about some drainage issues east of Iroquois and throughout the corridor. I know that some of these lands that back onto the CN corridor are kind of, I wouldn't consider them wet. I don't think they're classified as wetlands, but probably floodplain. But nonetheless, we've had some major issues with beaver dams. We've had some major issues with basically they don't drain, and so then what happens is there's major rain events and it backs up onto people's properties, and maybe they're not prime residential properties, but they are properties nonetheless. So I'd like to have a discussion again offline. I know Jeff is aware of it, but I'd like to have a discussion with CAO Ben DeHaan and Jeff and take a run out there. And I think we need to be an advocate for whomever owns the ditches to get them to drain properly. And it may extend east into a couple other municipalities or townships, but I think we need to start that discussion. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if Ben DeHaan was at North Dundas, but I know Mayor Fraser has worked with MP Duncan with CP Rail on similar kind of conversations on the northern track. Yeah, so definitely we should follow up and work on that. Any comments, CEO?
One of the and I didn't follow the file in the last little bit, but I know that there was a dispute actually between the rail authorities and requirement to pay for municipal drain maintenance, because there's a number of municipal drains that cross railways as well, and they were disputing the validity of the Municipal Drainage Act on, you know, kind of they're federally regulated, so therefore they're above kind of on provincial law. So I don't know where that is, but I think, yeah, there's a good opportunity here to kind of revisit that, as well as kind of take a look at these areas and see what we can do to advocate for some improvements, for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. CAO Ben DeHaan. You know, it seems to be well, it's your problem, how are we going to, I think we need to advocate for our residents and have a voice there. And, you know, at the end of the day, they may just tell us that mind your business, there's nothing you could do about it, but I think it's just worth having some further discussions with MPP and MP and whomever else we need to have discussions with.
There we go. Yeah, and I think that the challenge that I've experienced in my career is whenever, even if you're willing to take a little bit more responsibility beyond what you normally would because you just want to fix the problem for the residents you work for, challenge to get into rail right of way and actually do that work because of the safety concerns, and rightfully so, safety concerns and some of the support you get for that. So we may be even in a position where we want to be a little more proactive with it and still get stymied, but let's have that discussion. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And doing some infrastructure projects around different railways, they've got rules, and I understand that. And I would never, I'm not suggesting that we go in with our own shovels and backhoes, but, you know, I think we should be engaging our neighboring municipalities as well, and maybe stronger collective voices can you know, I'm just looking at what happened at the lock system, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we jumped on it, we created an issue, we made it public, lo and behold, things get fixed, right? And I'm not one to, I don't necessarily think I'll always go into the media about this, although I know Rebecca's writing this, but you know what I'm saying, like embarrassing anybody, that's not my first line of defense. Mayor Braun knows that's not my personal line of defense, but I just think if we get other municipalities, let's reach out, let's figure out if they've got the same issues, let's see how far downstream this is, and maybe collectively we can have a good, strong voice.
Very good. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Any notice of motions? Seeing none, I have a ratification bylaw, the bylaw 30, being a bylaw to adopt and confirm ratify matters dealt with resolution, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Councillor Smith, second by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. And council, motion to adjourn at the next meeting, the call of the chair. Councillor Smith, Councillor Vino, all in favor? Carried. So we bring our meeting to a close for Wednesday, April the 9th, with South Dundas, as council, as team, staff. Just a couple notes as we wrap up. We had a few members of our community in South Dundas and throughout SNG win the King Charles Coronation Medal last weekend, and we're in Ottawa and received the medal. We have invited them to a future council meeting where we'll be able to recognize them ourselves, because I think it's a wonderful achievement. So thank you to those, and congratulations to those winners, and more to come. And with our new CEO, Ben DeHaan, starting today, I just want to thank Treasurer Julie Stewart and Clerk Christopher LeBlund for holding the fort as we were moving between CEO Mills and DeHaan. So thank you for all your hard work, really appreciate it. And things kept moving forward. So thank you very much, very appreciated by the council team. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll call our meeting.